We left off on the last video by looking at some of the functions that Strapi provides to us to work with our models. Those functions are really endpoints, and that is really the key part of the API part of a headless CMS. Remember, that's one of the main core concepts of what a headless CMS is that it exposes all of our content or the data structured by our models over an API. It exposes all of our content over an API, and that API is accessed through endpoints. Let's head on over to the Strapi documentation to learn a little bit more. Here I am on strapi.io, and over on the left under Content API, I'm right at the top on API endpoints. Now, one thing I'll note here at the beginning is that the way that we will actually interact with endpoints and the API in our application is going to be slightly different than what we'll go over here, because we will be using GraphQL. And we'll get into everything about what that is and why we'll be using it later. But for now, I think understanding what is going on with the endpoints in this example will really help you understand the concepts later when we get to those. So whenever you create a content type, you will have a certain number of REST APIs available to it. So when we created our article content type, Strapi goes ahead and creates all of these different endpoints for us. Okay, a certain number of REST APIs. In the example here in the documentation, they use the content types restaurant and homepage. Okay, so if we scroll down here, and let's just focus on the content types instead of the components. That's actually a little more of an advanced part of Strapi that we'll probably get into later in a bonus video of the course whenever I figure out something cool to do with them. But for now, let's just focus on the content types and the endpoints that Strapi creates for those. So this is the example restaurant content type with fields of name, a slug, a cover, content, and opening hours. Okay, so we'll come on down, and these are the endpoints generated for every single content type. Okay, so we have a get/content type, and that gets the entire list. So this would be get/restaurants would pull up all of your restaurants, and then get/restaurants/ the ID of that restaurant will pull up just a single restaurant. Then you can call the content type, so restaurants/count. And just to make this clear, these are routes that you are accessing as a network request, as a HTTP or HTTPS request. So just like when we go to localhost :1337/admin for Strapi, well, admin is just another endpoint that our admin dashboard is at. But there's /restaurants in this example, restaurants, and then the restaurants / the ID of the restaurant, or /count, or whatever you'd like. But that is what it means when we're talking about endpoints. So the IP address or the server address, which right now is localhost at port 1337, and then the endpoints are accessed from that. So then /restaurants/count. Okay, so hopefully that clears that up if there were any confusion about that. Then for creating a new content type, you send a post request to /content type. So a get request at /restaurants gives you the list of all your restaurants, but a post request at /restaurants will create a new restaurant entry. Delete does exactly what you would expect for deleting a certain restaurant or content type at the specified ID, and then put requests update the content. We'll really get into the technical specifics of how we're going to do this in our application later on. Right now, I really just want you to understand the concept that these are created by Strapi for us and exposed functionality that we have to work with. So just know that there is the ability to make a request from our application to the server and create new entries, delete new entries, get our list of entries, all that functionality. I just really need you to understand that it's there and that it's possible for when we go to actually use it later. Let's scroll down and look at some examples here. So here for the restaurant content type, you see, just like we had said before, get/restaurants/restaurants/id, restaurants/count, post to /restaurants to create a new one, and delete and update. So this is really good documentation. I think that these examples are really clear and hopefully help you understand what is going on here and start to think about how we are going to use it. They even have an article example here, so you could see this would be exactly what endpoints we have available to us from the article content type that we created for our example. Let's keep scrolling down. Here, it actually just gives you more examples of what this actually looks like. Okay, so I'll actually come over here under Content API, under API Endpoints Parameters, and we'll just briefly go over this because, again, we'll get into the specifics later. I just want you to be aware that this is here and possible. So these are filters that you can use to define what content you actually want to get back. So you can see these are the filter codes. These strings here are the codes, and then you can see examples of how they're used here. So for example, the get/restaurants, and then these are included as query strings in your request. So a query string with price underscore GTE, so a price greater than or equal to 3. Okay, here's an example. Find multiple restaurants with ID 3, 6, and 8. So go grab those restaurants. So get/restaurants ID underscore IN. So look at the list, IN included in an array of values. So ID includes 3, ID includes 6, and ID includes 8. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I think that it's pretty intuitive, pretty clear. And like I said, I just want you to understand that this is possible and that we do have these options for querying and filtering our data. Okay, we can go past this and they talk a little bit more about how you can do more complex queries. We won't get super into that right now. Here at the bottom, we also have sorting options. So ascending, descending, and then we also have the ability to limit how many results are returned. Okay, then we can also specify where to start. So get the second page of results. So start at 10 and limit at 10 would get you the second page of results. Like they say, this is very useful for pagination. The last concept that I'm going to throw in here is the fact that you can also create custom endpoints. Okay, that is a really powerful pattern that we're going to use a lot in this course to add our own functionality in really clean ways to Strapi and to our application. And so that's just another thing I want you to be aware of and to start thinking about. So not only do you have all of these endpoints here, the getting, creating, and deleting endpoints and functionality, but you can also define your own custom endpoints and functionality. And that's going to allow us to do some really interesting things later on. So this should have the gears turning in your head about where we're going to go with this and what we're going to be able to do with it, because this really is so powerful. And I just think it's so cool that Strapi is able to create these APIs for us so easily and automatically based on the content structures that we feed it, but without all the heavy legwork that would actually take to build APIs around that content. Normally, those were two completely separate tasks, but now Strapi handles all of that so easily and so cleanly for us. So next time, let's go ahead and actually check out some of these endpoints and use it for ourselves. So I'll see you in the next one.